Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Super Duper Homebrew Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
An interview with Ryan Hansen from homebrewerpro.com. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 254. I never get it right. I never get it right. Hey, hello, and welcome to the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stewing. Today, I'm joined by my friend, Ryan Hansen from homebrewerpro.com. Ryan is an avid homebrewer, and he is the creator of homebrewerpro.com, the online course for you to learn how to brew beer at home from grain to glass. Ryan, my friend, how are you doing?
I am excellent, man.
Excellent?
I'm kind of starstruck because I've been listening to the show forever.
Yeah,
and
I'm a big deal.
So being on is like, yay!
Yeah.
This is really fun, man.
I appreciate it. Yeah, you are, and you really are. You're a longtime friend of the show. I've known you for a couple of years at least. We spoke on the phone one time when I guess you were kind of this pro course was like in the budding stages of existence.
Yep.
And I subjected you to like an hour of small talk. So it's nice that you didn't block me. How's it going out there? Beautiful. You know, what is the weather there? You're in California.
I'm in California, Central California. It's 66 degrees, and it could not be any better because I can literally leave my fermenter on the bench and not turn on the glycol. So it's like, sweet. Let her rip.
Yeah, that's the difference between, I think, maybe Californians and Texans. It's 59 here, and I'm dressed for the Arctic. I'm like,
I see that.
Yeah.
That's
well,
a lot.
I bought a Subaru not that long ago, so I have to wear Columbia and North Face and Patagonia now. I think it's in the contract when you buy a Subaru. But no, the beanie's also because I'm bald. My when I started losing my hair, I noticed my head was getting colder a lot quicker than usual. Like it doesn't take a lot. Like in the 70s, I'm like, oh, this is cold. I also could be anemic. Who knows? I don't go to the doctor. But anyways, it is nice to see you. I love your background. One of my favorite things. You've got such a cool lounge brewery bar, like whole setup. Like, first off, you're married, right?
I am married. Still somehow married, but happily so. 4 kids, about the same ages as yours. My oldest is 12 and youngest is 5. And they've all known me as a brewer since they were babies.
Right.
So.
And that'll be my segue, because obviously we'll get to homebrewerpro.com over the course of this interview. But I want you to start it off with like a little bit of your background, because you've been brewing a while. You have a lot of experience. You collaborate at some local breweries, or if you don't, they at least let you pose. Like, so it's very convincing. But let's start off with like your background. What got you into brewing, and how long have you been a home brewer?
Yeah, it's the history of brewing isn't as long as a lot of the guys that you talk to, and they're like, 47 years of brewing experience. Like, so I was a missionary kid, grew up in Europe. So Italy and Germany always had beer around, just kind of culturally, it was like wine or that. So it was never taboo. Moved back to the States, joined the Army right away. And so immediately turned into frat boy mode, right? Bud Red and Marlboro Red was like my thing. So was a Budweiser guy for a long time. And yeah, a good friend of mine and I started doing whiskey tastings, like trying to get into that world and understand the differences. We fell across the, what was the name of the documentary about Popcorn Sutton, the moonshine guy?
Oh, right. No, I don't know the name of it, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Anyway, it's like a 2-hour show about this guy's life. Insane. And we're like, our neighbor's a plumber. We're engineers. We can do this. And so we built this like ramshackle still like to do distilling. And we ended up at a homebrew shop to kind of get the ingredients. And we're trying to be sneaky about it. Like, oh, we need flaked corn. And he's like, oh, like 6-8 ounces. What are you making? And it was like, we need like 8 pounds. And he was like, oh, so you're moonshining. And I was like, ah, crap.
Yeah.
We're caught.
Ah, they busted me.
He's going to call the cops. Super cool guy. So Ben Como's homebrew shop here in Fresno was my first introduction to any of that. So we make horrendous moonshine that was probably pure poison. Kind of let go of everything for a while. And then that same buddy, he brought me to a local brewery, a startup brewery called Tack Ups. And I'm walking around and they're like showing me, they're like, that's the boil kettle. This is the mash tun. I knew nothing of like what they were doing. And I just remember being wowed. I was like, wait, like you make like the beer that's at the store here. And in my head, I have like giant factories, you know, like the Budweiser thing. And I was hooked. So I just started asking questions and I'm like, how do you do it? And all this and that. So that's how I got into, I guess, drinking craft beer. Was just, they're like, okay, try this style, never touch a Budweiser again. And I was like, yeah, but I kind of still like it. Fell in love with that. A couple more years go by and I see this make your own beer 1 gallon kit, probably like a Craft a Brew or something at Target. And I was like, hey, to my wife, get me that for Christmas. It's like $60, right? And made it that afternoon. And that was probably only like 7 years ago. This hobby like sunk deep after that first.
That happens.
Beer.
You know what I mean? It's very polarizing. Either people are like, Mr. Beer did them wrong and they're like, okay, I'm done. I'll just go buy the beer at the store. Or they're like, just 7 years later, like, oh, I only have like 85 grand in my setup. It's pretty humble, but
it's my wife definitely feels that way. And she has until when she found out that I was going to make that, she was like, so you might make money off of this hobby? And I was like, maybe. So she stopped complaining about it. But I mean, once you get to, and I can like give you the little tour here. Once you get to a certain level, your only option is to go bigger batches. And I don't really need to do that. So like the gear bug is pretty much fed for now.
That's awesome. When you got that Craft a Brew or Mr. Beer, whatever it was it a pale or what? I mean, I'm assuming it was a pre-hopped canned extract. I'm assuming
it had hops that had obviously not been refrigerated. It was, I found the picture of me brewing it. I was like, right, holding up the little tea bag of the grains. No, it was DME. There was some specialty grains that you had to steep for a little bit. And so I had a little thermometer in the stock pot. The whole house, my wife hated the smell. She's like, this is not a fun hobby. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. The beer was gross. It was an American pale, undercarbonated. But my OCD brain doesn't say, oh, this hobby is too hard or like, it's not going to be good. My brain was like, what did I do wrong? And that started like obviously binge watching Barbecue and Beer with Larry. That channel was like, I binge watched everything that he had. And I was like, man, this is cool. I like this. And so, got into the hobby.
Him, Chop and Brew. I'm trying to think of other people who've been around for forever on the YouTube.
He was definitely my go-to. And then I started getting into the podcasts, Brewlosophy. Actually, that was probably the biggest inflection point. Was I found Brewlosophy, and Marshall in one of the podcasts he was saying like, hey, to do these experiments, to weigh in on the things, like hit me up and I'll point you to the right person. It's like, Philadelphia, Texas, this and that. And he's like, and I'm in Fresno. And I was like, oh, yeah. I can do that. So like email him right away. I'm like, hey, let me be in on the things. He scooped me up, has always been super gracious about answering my idiot questions about getting started. And usually he just had to send me a link. He's like, here's the link to the podcast episode that you need to listen to. I'm like, oh. So, but him and I became friends. And one thing led to the next. And I just got deeper and deeper into the scene. And now I'm like in the Central Valley Craft Brewers Guild, even though I'm not one of the brewers. I'm like the voice of the home brewers for them. So mostly because I volunteer and help with the social media, but whatever.
They probably like that though, because you're a pretty rational dude. I've known you long enough to say that, or at least you pretend to be one pretty well.
I do pretend I'm good.
I love going on the brewery subreddit where you see a lot of microbreweries' perception of homebrewers or the homebrewer voice, and it's kind of like, you know, I mean, like
who are you?
Yeah. Where they get, or it's just like if a homebrewer comes to there, it says something along the lines of like, you know, give them any kind of tip, or I say tip, not like they can give them tips. That's the perspective though I'm talking about. It's like these craft brewers like, cool brewing a bad setup, bro. Tell me more about how you know about step meshing or something. I don't know.
Or the home brewer goes in and critiques the beer, like with specifics. And it's like, who are you again? Like, no, don't do that. Please don't do that. Yeah. Unless you have a relationship where you're like, hey dude, that last batch, I got a can home and it was like really flat. Something happened. And usually they're like, oh yeah, I know. I ran out of CO2 that day and just had to suck it up and ship it. So it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I'll just say, I try to, I mean, when we go to breweries anyways, we're just so appreciative, especially when they invite us in to try or whatever. But yeah, I very rarely ever have anything to offer them at all. But to be fair, that's how I feel about this podcast. Like when Todd and James are on, I have to get other people to come because I feel like, oh man, people are going to sniff me out quick. Yeah, you and Marshall are kind of neighbors too, aren't you? Not just in the same town. Like that's hilarious.
Couple streets up, and he's such a cool guy to just hang out with too. Like once we became friends, it was like, all right, here it is. It's really hard to get him out to come play though.
Yeah, I bet. It's hard to get him on the
podcast. How busy he stays.
He's super busy. We've connected a couple times, and he's polite to how he turns me down, which is never replying to my emails. Marshall, no, I'm kidding. No, he replies. No, Marshall's he's a good dude. I've seen him very, very trashed at a homebrew con once, but I'll just leave it at that. He's a good dude.
I believe that.
So you know, I like when we're doing these homebrewer showcase type episodes. You started brewing on that like craft to brew kind of thing. How long were you doing the extract thing before you either upgraded your equipment just for that, like doing bigger batches, or made the jump to all grain? And what did that look like in regards to equipment?
Sure. I think I've only ever done 2 extract kits ever. I jumped straight into all grain. We got a turkey fryer and a big brew in a bag that I borrowed from somebody and tried a couple of batches with that. The first fermenter was just a plastic bucket. I think I still have that thing around here somewhere with the airlock, and, you know, bought a cheap refrigerator off of Craigslist, put the Inkbird on it. So that was my temperature control. You know, just did the usual things. And then I started seeing the all-in-ones, and I was really attracted to electric brew. We just put a bunch of solar on our house. And so I was like, cause I had like, at this point, little bitty kids running around, and I'm out on the back patio, and there's this burner and everything in there. And so I'm like, I got to move this into the garage. And so that's when I bought the very first brew setup that I had was the 110 version of the claw hammer supply brew in a basket. Mm-hmm. Love it. I just brewed on it this weekend again. I'll never get rid of it. It's amazing. So that's on the hot side. And then on the cold side, I got the Catalyst. So I've got that still hanging out down under here. The Catalyst fermenter was a big investment, right? Because you go from a $20 bucket to, I think, like $150 or something.
I think on the low end, it was $150. Yeah.
You can like let CO2 like coat in on the top and basically get as close as you can get to a CO2 transfer, or oxygen-free transfer, without moving up to stainless and pressurizable systems. So I did that for a long time. I had 2 catalysts, and then the bug bit me. I was like, I can't make New England IPAs in this thing because it's just going to be oxygenated like I'm toast. So moved up to the Spike Solos. I've got the twins over there with the glycol chiller. And yeah, that's kind of the setup. And then when the show came about, when the idea for the course came about, that was right about the time that I actually did work as the head brewer for a local brewery that lost their guy. They didn't lose him, like he didn't die. But when COVID hit, he went off to do something else because all the bars and everything shut. And he was like, well, I can't make beer. And so I come into this place, super cool guys. I was so upfront with them. I'm like, look, I've never brewed 10 barrels of beer at a time. I know how to make beer. And they're like, you know what? At this point, if we can just put something on tap, like we'll be happy. We understand the risks. Go for it. So I made a couple batches for them, getting advice from local brewers. They were all super helpful, just coming in and like jamming out on this giant system. And I was like, I'm a for real brewer now. But yeah, I mean, those were my babies. And so made an imperial porter, had to learn the hard way. Like recipes don't scale linearly. And so, it was a blast, super happy that they trusted me with that, but the beers came out good, sold out. And, yeah, but that helped me realize my back cannot take being a full-time brewer. Like I'm too jacked up. Like it just,
is that I just said back to a lot of work, back to that subreddit thing too. I'm not, obviously we do business sometimes with breweries like for their tap rooms, but it's so funny seeing the curmudgeons that are on that subreddit that are just like, somebody will be like, hey, I'm thinking about starting my own brewery. What are your tips? And I could just see them with the cigarette in the mouth.
Right.
Don't, you know?
Yes. You adopted the dark. I was born in it.
Exactly. They're a bunch of Banes. Yeah. They're a bunch of, I imagine chain smokers that are just like, oh, do you want to hate craft beer forever and not make money? Then this is for you. Well, I mean, it's the same thing where you made that comment earlier, how you told your wife, oh, I might make money now. Or she made the observation. I always have to break hearts when people get into this. Like, if you're not bit by the bug, or if you're not passionate, or if you don't even just more than enjoy it, you're not, I mean, first off, you're not saving money, but you better justify it when it's your passion. You're like, oh no, it's because it's a very enjoyable hobby. And I'm not counting how much my pop and I have spent on it, because it's like, no, that's our bonding time. That's invaluable. You can't put a price tag on that, but you can put a price tag on it. My credit card statements have shown. But you did that little pan over to the Spike. Or what are you brewing? What size batches are you brewing present day? And what is your, like, I know you said you use the claw hammer. Do you, because you have all the equipment, jump from thing to thing? Like, oh, I haven't brewed on this in a while. Or what's an average brew day look like in regards to equipment and batch size?
Sure. I like the flexibility that's come about. Actually, this will segue into how I got the gear, because my wife would have murdered me if I just went out and bought the big boy version. So that's a 220 version that does 10-gallon batches. Same exact claw hammer supply. Again, can't say enough about them. So if you're getting into it, that's my daily use. The course, I started pitching it. Like I talked to you about it. I talked to Clawhammer. Casey from Imperial was super gracious. And so she's a sponsor of the course, or Imperial's a sponsor of the course too. They sent gear so that I could showcase it for the course. And so obviously I'm super grateful for that, but, that's how I got to upgrade to 10-gallon batches and the 220 controller. So now I have the setup to where I could either do a regular 5-gallon batch. I'll usually do 5-gallon batches if I'm doing like a kettle sour or something that I don't want 10 gallons of on hand. I do 10-gallon batches on the big guy. And then I also have the Brewzilla, and I bust that out and use it as a still for hand sanitizer, of course.
Obviously. Duh. Yeah.
But got the little still top and everything, and learned how to do that. And so now I have an unlimited supply of hand sanitizer too. And
hand sanitizer and essential oils, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah. Obviously. Duh. It's kind of like too, we tell people our address, but don't ship us beer. 1800 EDC Parkway, Comanche, Texas, 76442. Don't ship us beer. That's wrong. Yeah, that's wrong. and might be illegal. So are your conicals over there? Because I also saw one of those brew built. That's from More Beer, right? Mm-hmm. I think they're manufacturing those now.
Yep.
Are those all 10
that's
gallon?
What I do my 10 gallon batches in that.
Okay.
So there's the Monster Mill, Jaded Chiller, SS Brewtech Glycol Chiller, the 2 Spike Brewing Flex Pluses, and then the 10. I can do 10 gallon batches in the brew build. I'm happy right now. They're all full.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask.
Imperial Stout, 10 gallons of that. Kind of getting ready for the Christmas season. That seems like a good thing to have on hand. A cider, and I'm really excited to try this. I'm spunding the cider, which I've never done before. So it'll be carbonated, and that way I can just keg it, and I'm going to put a handle of Fireball in there.
Interesting.
Kind of give that a whirl. So we'll have like a cinnamon
I was going to say a cinnamon cider for
Christmas time.
Yeah, nothing says Christmas like a drunk uncle on Fireball throwing the present through the window. Yeah. I'm not projecting how my family is. I don't know.
That sounds like a very specific example, Josh.
No. I just got it off the internet. I love those spike. We use Todd. I say we. I haven't gotten a conical yet. That's my next upgrade for sure, because I like you said, the spunding. I like the flexibility these stainless steel conicals offer.
Yep.
I was kind of holding out because Blickman is coming out with one that can be pressurized now. But and I love Blickman, not just the products, but the people there. Blickman's fantastic. So is Spike. Let me say this when everyone's watching. I'm legitimately honest when I say that 99.5% of people in our industry are incredible people.
Completely agree.
Yeah, you know, I'm preaching to the choir. So that 0.5% are the ones on Reddit who don't let me post. But besides them, I'm probably gonna get the Spike because it's readily available. Where I think, unfortunately, because of COVID and stuff, they're still having supply issues with a lot of manufacturers and retailers. So, like contacting Blickman, like, hey, when's this coming out? And they're like, oh, get it in our 7 gallon. And I was like, no, I want the 14 gallon. Because my pop and I, even, we brew in 10 gallon batches, but we're probably to start brewing in 15 gallon batches next year on the HERMS setup. The Brautag is my plan.
Yeah. So. That's a beautiful system. I looked at it. I've never really done anything outside of the all-in-ones. So I like watching the brew days for it. Like, it's a whole new world. Like, I don't do anything like lautering, or I don't even sparge. It's like, your volume, you can calculate, like, so for me, hitting my numbers is a whole different like math.
Right.
It is for you guys.
And that's what, I'd
be curious to try it.
I'm happy like with the reception of the Brautag, but it is a lot of people, the all-in-ones are more popular is probably the right word, but also they're just more a lot of people like the batch size that the all-in-ones, up to 10 gallon. A lot of people maybe aren't looking for larger batches, but more importantly, I think a lot of people, space is a premium to a lot of us. And end of brew day. Look, I try to tell people, as in being, again, very straightforward, the Brautag is extremely easy to use. I just brewed a Kolsch on it last Friday. And it went very well.
You guys were going to do that.
Yeah. Todd abandoned me, so I had to do it again on my own. And it was very straightforward. The cleaning on it's easy. It's just people get the all-in-one, and they're like, but it's just all-in-one. And then the cleaning is like, yeah, this is almost the same. It's just, the mash tun and then the boil kettle. And they're like, well, mine is all in one. Did you not hear me? Like, yeah, I heard you. But I don't know what it is. I feel like I'm a pro. I feel like I'm a pro on the HERMS setup because it's here's where people are who brew for a living are going to tell me you're an idiot. It feels more replicated of what my experience in a brewery at like Teddy's, like seeing them brew in regards to the process of hot liquor tank. And here's your mash tun and your boil. Like it seems like I could probably scale my knowledge and go to Teddy's and he go, hey, do you know what you're doing? And I could pretend and then Google or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't. So, I completely agree. I was kind of out of my element when I first got to that brewery, looking at that, and I was like, well, how do you use an HLT? What temperature do you set it at? Do you treat the water in there, or do you wait until it's in the mash? Like, all sorts of new questions that I just never done before. So, and I know the guys over at More Beer, I heard them talking about like an actual all-in-one. like remove the grain basket, chill it, leave it in that, and that's your fermenter as well. And it's like,
they
crazy.
Yeah, they mentioned that, and I was thinking, I think Chris is the one who said it, and like, what is he smoking? Like in California, y'all are all high. What is it? No, I'm kidding, but that
pretty much,
yeah, pretty much, right? Everybody I know, I drive through there. It's been like years, but no, it's very intriguing, right? The actual, like, there was what's the appliance company that also the Vessi is what they called it, which then they took that term, they took that brand Vessi and made it something else in the brew world. It's like now it's sous vide immersion type of heater, but it's one of the appliance companies. Darn it! It's not like GE, but it's like the one that starts with a W.
Yeah,
what's the one that starts?
I know what you're talking about.
But anyway,
I know what you're talking about.
We saw them at a homebrew con 5 or 6 years ago, and they were, when Vessi at that time was, the concept was all in one. Like you brew in this thing, it ferments in this thing, it carbonates in this thing, and you serve it from this thing. To where I know, but it was also like it was like $7,000, I think, or $8,000.
Can you dump the trub and yeast, or are you just leaving it on there? Carbonated?
No, I think they had like underbellies for you to kind of take care of that during the whole process. I believe, I don't know. We actually had them on. It must have been HomebrewCon 2015, 2016. I'll go back and I'll link to it in this thing, because we had back then. Like I said, they were
right.
Now they are. Because I saw a Facebook targeted ad for me. I was like, Vessi, they're still a thing. And then wait a second, that's not the same people. Darn it, that's not them at all. And I feel bad that
I've seen. What's it? Short Circuited Brewer. He's done a couple of videos with like an all-in-one that's like a pouch. You put it in it and you set it up and you hit go.
Oh, like the Pico Brew.
The Pico Brew.
Yeah. People
never played with those.
Some people swear by them, but Pico Brew went under last year, I think. And we love their former head of brewing or head of recipe development or something, Annie Johnson. I forget her title. Love her. I'd love to have her back on the show. She's one of my favorite people to see at a homebrew con. Which I'll segue from here. Have you been to a homebrew con as long as you've been a homebrewer?
Alas, not yet. I was going to go last year. It got canned. I didn't even join the online one because I was like, man, no. But I am talking to the AHA about getting my course, promoted through them. And so I'll probably show up to the next one.
Pittsburgh or the year after?
Well, maybe not. Actually, I get to do a brewing and distilling course in Tennessee. That's right over that same time. And my wife won't let me do both. So
what?
Yeah, I know. Right. She's like, no, you get one beer trip a year. So hopefully
reasonable.
The next one they were alluding to will be on this coast. So 2022, I'll definitely.
They better not, because I've been trying to get them to Texas since I've known them. So I've known the AHA. It's been a long time.
I can come to Texas. That'd be fun.
Yeah. It would. Austin or San Antonio. San Antonio is a very beer friendly city. Lots of lodging. It's not as expensive as Austin, so they could come back here.
And easy to fly to.
Very easy to fly to. Everybody's got direct flights to San Antonio, but they probably do Austin because it's the Portland of Texas. But anyway, so. Talking about your brewing, your current brewing and all that. What are like you got into craft beer before you started brewing yourself. Do you find yourself the kind, like I might call myself, I find the recipes I like and that's pretty much what I stick to pretty regularly? Or do you, like Todd, like to venture off and go, yeah, I'd like to try that, or I'll do this, and never really have the same thing on tap all the time?
I get a little bit of both. So I've honed in. I named my top 4 beers after my kids. So I've got Lulu's IPA, Rooney's Red, Beppy's Brown, and Bubba's Porter. And they have their own little like logos and pictures, cartoon things that go on tap handles. So I always have those on hand because that's a crowd pleaser. Somebody always wants an IPA. Some people are like, I don't like the hoppy. I'm like, cool, have the red. So yeah, I have those 4, but since I have 6 taps, I kind of rotate the other 2. I've been playing a lot with the ciders, made a couple of seltzers now. And it's I'll rotate through and make any style, especially if it's challenging, right? Blue Lake hops. I got some of their flash freeze fresh hops. So that's kind of one of the latest ones that I've done with whole cone fresh hops. And yeah, just made a old pale ale with it and came out really good, but it was a pain in the butt to work with those hops. So
when you say you made a seltzer, I just have to click, because I'm making one, but I'm not, because I'm lazy. I'm doing just the diluted vodka and adding adding flavor to it. But did you make it like with the yeast and everything? How did that turn out? Because I've heard people, there's no middle ground with seltzers. Either people say I made it, it was fantastic and great, or I'm never making it again, that was terrible.
Yeah. There's tricks. There's definitely tricks, because I did the fermented. I think I used Paramount from Imperial. Fantastic base, but the flavoring, I did that weird. I used a fruit puree, and it made it murky, and it wasn't good. The next one that I made, I got more advice on it, and so it was still the fermented sugar, but I used activated charcoal, which got rid of that yeasty aftertaste that a lot of homebrewers are finding in their seltzer. And it's in liquid form. It just drops out everything that you don't want in it. And that is what let me take it up to Truly or White Claw level in my wife's eyes. So she likes it. And so
that's all that matters at the end of the day, is someone likes it, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's what because I'm trying to do that too. I would love to brew a seltzer and have one. But if this will be my first time making, and for audio only listeners, I'm doing the air quotes, and I'm doing it. We're doing my pop is hosting a wedding shower for my cousin, and people there enjoy seltzers. It's a crowd that will enjoy seltzers. Last time I mentioned stereotypical people who enjoy seltzers, I got a 1-star review, so I won't talk about white women loving seltzers, but but anyway,
I like them. There's no shame in that.
I know there's no shame in it. I made the joke. It's this if you have a problem with what I say, email me first. Whatever.
Don't bang me up on the internet.
Yeah, no, that I'm a punching bag. But anyway, I am curious how the diluted vodka is going to turn out with it, because that's what I read. We have our friends over at Keg Outlet, they're out of California as well. They had an article too about hey, here's how we'd brew it if you want to use yeast and the sugar, all that stuff. Or here's an easier way, and we do it, and it's quick, and you can do it the day of and serve that day and not and be done with it. There's no wrong answer here, right?
Right. If you like it and people that are coming over are digging it, then you're successful. I personally took it as a challenge where I'm how do I get rid of that yeastiness? How do I make it? I don't have filtration or anything like that I can run it through. So what comes out of the fermenter is pretty much what you're stuck with.
You don't have filtration yet. That's that. Yeah. Comma. Yeah.
I have the canister, right? The where you have I want to say it's a 5 or 10 micron filter inside. That thing is such a pain to use. I'm always paranoid that I'm going to inject oxygen into whatever I'm doing. I used it 5 times. I think I have 20 filters left, and I never use it because it's such a pain. I'll do the little inline filter, but that's about it. If you do your process right, you kind of don't need that.
Right.
Unless you're trying for crystal clear on something that just is refusing to drop clear.
I'll get you connected with James. He'll tell you why you're wrong and how to do it. And I will say this though, James's beer is the brightest beer I ever have in my life. It is. I'm wondering sometimes, did you buy this? Is this commercial? Did you just put it in the keg? Because that's something I would do. I brewed a keg. Yeah, this is off topic.
There's the truth.
Totally. I brewed a Kolsch. I brewed a Kolsch, a 5-gallon batch before last Friday that I brewed on the Brautag for a buddy of ours named Keith, who is having a party this weekend, and he needed something to turn over quick. So I brewed this Kolsch, and I turned it around so quick, and it has the subtlest hint of banana. And I was like, no, oh my God, no, it's that the esters that my temperature, because I fermented in my office for this batch. Yeah. And so I wasn't precise. And I literally was telling my pop, I was like, I'm going to go buy a few mini kegs of Froo, just put the money down and put it in this keg and give it to him. So he'll be Josh is the greatest brewer ever because this is another Kolsch I'm messing up, man. Darn it. Oh, the curse of Kolsch in my life. No, the Kolsch we brewed on the Brautag is turning out great, but that we put that on the yeast cake from Todd's previous batch that we had just kegged. So
okay,
I have high hopes for it. Like on the Brautag, I'm like 2 for 2 now and about to be 3 for 3. I feel like, so that's why I told my dad, make room, Pop, at your house so we can put this Brautag there because I can brew on that. And it's not just the brewing too, also the cold side. I don't know if you would agree with me. The post boil side of this has burned me more than the boil side of it.
Yes, it's far less lenient. There's obviously using the right yeast with temperature control. That's kind of the biggest one. And then oxygen free transfers is like, those are the main keys, right? Obviously, aside from sanitation. So I don't know, man. There's kind of no shortcutting that. If you want X and the ability to prevent off flavors, like you kind of have to do all of the things. There's ways of mitigating it, but you have to get really creative.
Creative. And speaking of creative, I'd be remiss, obviously, if I didn't bring this up on the show and start pushing it for you as well. You, as the creator of homebrewerpro.com, spelled just like it sounds, Daz, homebrewerpro.com, what was the process of you, because you've been brewing for a while, did you see a need where there were people, because you've got a very active Instagram at Big Pop Brewing. Did you see the need where people, like, to get more people in the hobby, you needed to just maybe explain it to them easier, or how did homebrewerpro.com come about? And then also tell people what homebrewerpro.com even is.
Sure. And thanks for letting me push it. I very much appreciate it. Basically, I don't know, 20, 30 times I've had somebody over to come hang out while I'm brewing because they want to figure it out. And it's such an overwhelming, like, onslaught of information. It's like, oh, that's a temperature controller for the fermentation. And like, it's overwhelming. And they're looking at any variable that I can do at a brewery, right, I can do here. So that's a lot of equipment. And I'm like, no, don't be overwhelmed. Like, it can be super simple. I probably should have just done a brew in a bag with you. So they're overwhelmed and they don't get to see the second half, which is bottling or kegging or canning or whatever it is, like, to get to the final product. So I wanted to do this, and I've been thinking about it for a while. It wasn't until I was having a beer and a cigar with a buddy of mine who's a videographer professionally, and he's like, man, yeah, we could record that. Let's do it in here. And I'm like, all right, because that's the biggest barrier to entry for these courses, right? Is the professional editing that goes behind it. And so his expertise and equipment and videography matched mine on the brewing side. So we partnered up and just built it with the hopes that it would come. So that's how it was born. And then over the next 4 months, we kind of recorded the brew days. I talked to sponsors to get equipment to showcase in it. In no uncertain terms, all of this information is 100% free on YouTube. You just have to sift through hours and hours and hours of maybe mediocre or outdated advice to get to that information.
Hey, don't.
That's how I learned.
You're talking about my podcast now. Come on, buddy.
Yeah. So, but it's free. Like, if anybody's talking to me and they're like, well, why should I get your course? And I'm like, because it's a concise one-stop shop with the latest all-in-one systems on the market. And I walk you through everything on using a plastic bucket all the way through stainless steel, oxygen-free transfers, and kegging. So I guess the only thing that is not, like, I didn't go into depth on it is how to set up taps or maybe build a walk-in. So I plan on adding that someday.
Because you have modules, right? So I say modules like other online courses. I forget what you call each, like, lessons, right? And it's 5 or 6 different type of subjects that you have as base elaborate from on those subjects. Yeah. And that's what I was going to ask you is it the type of course where it's a one and done, they sign up, and if you offer new content, that'll be free to them? Or how does it work for, like, a lot of people when they are doing courses like myself, is this a one-time fee or is this an annual, hey, you gotta resubscribe?
So that's a good question. We actually toyed with the idea of doing subscription for quite some time, but there's not that much that can be added to the course. I mean, the topics are finite unless we get to open it up to distilling one day, if that becomes legal. So it's a one and done. It's $200 right now. But they can get the whole first half of the course for free. So I'll give you the science of yeast, hops, grains, water, sanitation, and do a 1 gallon stovetop kit. And so that way I can kind of teach people the basics for free. And then if they decide they want to upgrade their gear, it makes sense to buy the course because you're going to get to see all of those systems in action. You're not going to have to do the stair step that like I did, where I went from plastic bucket to the catalyst to stainless steel. I would have just picked, I'm just going to go straight to stainless steel. Delta has some super affordable stuff right now. Delta Brewing, for example, crazy. So we're kind of over that hump where you have to spend $1,000 to get a great cold side setup. And so hopefully I can walk people through all of that. So, so full brew days. We go over different ways of carbonating, CO2, sugar in the keg, bottling, sugar in the bottles. And I showed the October design canning system as well. So kind of the process of how to use that. It's as far as I know, the most comprehensive all-in-one brewing course available. So again, all of the same information's out on YouTube. You just got to go find each module. So I'm expediting that process for a new brewer. Yeah. So that was my goal.
But I do like how transparent you are, because it is like you get that out of the way, because in the digital age we live in, and people are anonymous online, and they're very ballsy when they write emails. The first thing they're going to write you or write to my inbox would be like, I can get all of that info on YouTube. It's like, yeah, everything we do for this podcast, you can as well. I mean, we're on YouTube, but other people, there's a bunch of people who offer this info, which is why I always say it's the greatest time ever to be alive as a home brewer, because we have information at our fingertips. Like, I sit on the toilet and learn more in the I'm reducing my time 7.5 minutes than I did ever in high school, because I didn't pay attention because I was a bad kid. So but it is incredible. And also, what's great to sweeten the deal for people listening who are finding that you offered us graciously, our listeners, not just the Trub Club, but anybody listening, if they use HHH25, you'll give them 25% off the full course, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And hopefully I'm as open as I can be about it. Like, I'm on Instagram. Go find me and ask questions if you have questions about the course, or if you're brewing and you're like, hey, I didn't understand XYZ, like, just hit me up. We'll put a time and we'll Zoom and talk about it. So, it's a one and done. I'm adding seltzer, cider, and kombucha classes to that as well, and wine kit.
Nice.
So kind
Covering
of the
your
same fermenters, you can do wine kits. So kind of the all-in-one thing. My ultimate goal is for every homebrew shop in America to drop a flyer for the course into the new kits that they're selling, because they're going to win by getting customers coming back, because that first batch will hopefully be better than if they just muscled through it and forgot to sanitize. So it's I hope it takes off here.
Nice. And it is pretty brand new for it, but you feel like the reception's been good? You happy with the people I've seen online when you post about it, and because I've also been the recipient of targeted ads, I was going to message you and go, bro, I didn't click on it. I don't want you to waste whatever the budget was on it. But it seems like the comments I've seen on it, the reception seems great. How have you felt?
Everybody that's seen it, I have to give all props to my videographer, because it looks incredible.
It looks incredible.
Like the content, obviously I could talk home brewing all day. He helped me put it together. And so shout out to Naaman Villanueva, my videographer. If you're local, hit him up, because it looks like a masterclass. It looks super high end, and that's not thanks to me. That's thanks to him.
Yeah, well, that's
his wizardry. So
I've told Todd frequently, like, some of our stuff, our production value has gotten significantly better over the years, and I tell him, like, that's all we have to do is up the production value. Like, our knowledge can be here, but people will believe us, man. Sorry, listeners, that's my secret.
Good.
Yeah, if it looks good, and you've got the best hair of any homebrew grain to glass course I've ever seen online. So that's what you should put. If you do feedback from, like, well, here's what the industry's saying, leave that as my quote: the best hair in the online course industry. Like, that's my feedback for your course.
Oh,
I'm just jealous because I have no. Yeah. I mean, it's receding further and further every year. It's depressing. Before we wrap it up, like I said earlier, you do have a very active Instagram at Big Pop Brewing. Is Big Pop, like, what's the name behind that? And also, what are your aspirations beyond? Like, are you how some homebrewers are, where the dream is to be a head brewer full time, or to start your own thing, or to go to 15, 30, barrel size batches? Talk about Big Pop Brewing first, and then what the future looks like for Ryan Hansen and Big Pop Brewing.
Sure. Big Pop Brewing. Big Pop is my grandpa name. I've already picked it. I'm going to tell my kids, when you have kids, I'm Big Pop. I'm 5'6" and obviously huge. So it's kind of an ironic but funny. It just latched on, and I was like, yep, that's what I want to be called. So Big Pop it is. And it's kind of an illusion. My logo has the 4 arrows because that's, like, for my 4 kids. And so it all just ties into that, because this, any home brewer knows this, beer brings people together.
Absolutely.
It's about family. It's about uniting. I host men's groups out here with cigars and beer, and it just, it's awesome. And so it's a unifier for our neighborhood. I love it. So I don't want to be a professional brewer. I played that, and it's just not a good fit for me. Like, and it's a lot of hard work. So if I can be lazy and just podcast all day, which is what I do for a living, I'll take the easy route. So actually, a dirty little secret about the course is somebody getting into home brewing. I left out comments or videos about how much cleaning you have to do as a new home brewer. So don't tell anybody, because you'll spend more time cleaning than you do.
I'm laughing because you think I'm the one cleaning. Come on.
It's a savage part of the hobby. So pro level, you spend 10 times more cleaning. And because you're talking about, a 10 barrel batch is, that's a lot of money, like $1,200 potentially if it's a hoppy beer. And if you mess up on the cleaning and sanitizing side, like, you just took a big chunk out of your paycheck. So, if I were to evolve into something bigger on the brewing world, I think I would want a tap room where I can kind of do this unifying that I do here. I may have like a 1 barrel system or something where I can make house beers. But really, I would prefer to highlight all of the fantastic breweries that we've got around town here in Fresno. It's crazy. Like, we have 7 that I can think of off the top of my head. And I would just rotate through them, highlighting their beers, and, bring the brewers in because they're all buddies of mine. And so I'd rather be a unifier on that front and kind of highlight the Central Valley craft brew scene. But who knows? We'll see.
I like that. That's the dream. I would love to be that unifier too, but just Kolsch and alt beer.
My mouth is watering thinking about Kolsch's, and so I think I have one.
Do you have one on tap of your own?
I'm not on tap. I think I have Frew. Here, bear with me.
Oh, yeah, I've got cans of Frew.
Man, we've been talking about it this whole time. I have to do it.
Please do. If my fridge was closer to me, I would run away and grab my Frew. I have a case of Frew, and Todd. So it's opening weekend coming up. Oh yeah, I love the bottles. Yeah. The bottles are perfect because I believe they're 9 ounce or they 11 ounce. I forget, but it's more. I think it's 11 ounce because the cans that they do now.
See, that's a 16 ounce pint. So,
or maybe they're 12. I thought they were 11.
11.2. You're right. I never noticed that. Yeah. So they're slightly smaller.
They are slightly smaller, but I like drinking Kolsch in like the 9-ounce increment if I can, because I enjoyed it smooth. It's kind of how they serve it over there. But also the cans that Fruit put out are 17 or 16 point something ounce. I'm like, man, like it's just, look, I talk a lot when I drink. I just talk a lot, period. And so I don't like warmer Kolsch. Like,
it gets warm.
It is warm when I'm not.
It sits there too long.
Exactly. But anyways, yeah.
Or if like inevitably happens, I'm sitting there watching somebody across the fire pit and they're resting their beer like on the edge of the fire pit. I'm like,
with this weekend coming up, opening weekend at Todd's place.
Don't do that.
His buddies. That's what he always makes a fire for the middle, and I'm gonna be there playing music and whatnot. And, did I just lose you? No, I didn't. Okay, sorry. My screen over here went totally black for like half a second. You're here. Anyway, around the fire, it has a lip, like I guess where you would put glassware or something, because you're sitting around. I'm thinking, no, why did they make it this way? Because like your beers that go, I mean, the fire's roaring. What do you think's going to happen to your cold beverage? It's going to warm up, and then more people than not taste, like if it warms up too much, taste it, and then just pitch it.
Yeah. I know. You kind of need to make like the Adirondack chairs that have the big arm, and you cut the hole in there and just write on it, beer goes here. So that it's like right next to you that whole time.
Let's partner up. Let's partner up. That's a business idea right there. I have no money, but let's partner up. Anyway, Ryan, thank you so much. So before we wrap it up, I know homebrewerpro.com for the course info. Yep. You're very open, or your DM's open at Big Pop Brewing. Can they? They can reach out to you through Instagram. That's the best way to get a hold of you, I'm told.
Yeah, Big Pop Brewing on Instagram, or Ryan at homebrewerpro.com.
Perfect. Yep. And the course again, the promo code is HHH25. That'll give you 25% off the full course. I think one thing I didn't ask you when we were talking about the course, but I feel confident saying, and you correct me if I'm wrong, the course is not just for the brand new person. Like there's modules in it for people of any, like there's a lot of people who've only been doing it on one kind of system, and you can teach them on the other one. So would you say like the expertise level for your audience is varied? Like it's not just for the brand new homebrewer.
It's full send. I taught everything that I know on it. So if you're using plastic buckets and you want to move up, I don't only show you everything about the fermenter, how to pressurize it, how to do all of those things. I'll also I'll put it to use in there, but oxygen-free transfers are like kind of expected now as you graduate into that world. So any variable that a real brewery can teach, I put in there. So thanks for pointing that out. It's not just for beginner brewers, but and it might be overwhelming for somebody that is brand new, but that's why the 1 gallon kit is in there, where you go a little fermenter to bottles and that's it. So all brewing levels. That's why it's called Homebrewer Pro, because you'll have all of the tips that a pro could give you.
Absolutely. And that's a good domain. I like that. I'm sure when you're making the course, that was half the battle too. What can I call this? What domain's available?
Now I'm like the Good Hair Beer Guy.
I already bought it. I just bought it. I just bought it. But if you add, I'm super fast. You add my testimony to your website, and we can talk about giving you that domain. Anyway, Ryan, dude, thank you so much for your time. I always appreciate you. You've been a good friend of the show for a while, and I'm happy we were able to get you on and learn more about your story and whatnot. So thank you for your time, and we'll talk again soon, man.
Sounds like a plan. Keep up the good work.
Appreciate you. And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page. Or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. Thank you to our show sponsor, Imperial Yeast. You'll get a free pack of Imperial Yeast with your monthly recipe kits when you join our Trub Club. Go to homebrewhappyhour.com/club to learn more. On behalf of the absent Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.